So, biomes, right? They're pretty cool. They got the plants, the animals, well, a lot, okay? In this video, I'll be talking about the desert as a biome and how it works and how it functions in the real world. Ignore those things, I don't know what they are. First off, what is a desert? Desert is an area that receives very little rainfall, as well as being very arid. Typically, very they're very hot during the day with cold nights, but that's not all of them. The deserts can also be on the opposite side of the spectrum, being very, very cold. The animals that live in the desert are specifically adapted to the environment, as most animals couldn't survive here without the proper adaptations. We'll start things off by talking about some of the endangered species in the area, specifically the North African ostrich. Sadly, could not find any ostriches in mods or anything, so we're going to be substituting it with an emu. We're still going to be talking about the North African ostrich, but we'll just use this to show because they're very similar, but not the same. The North African ostrich is an endangered species in, you guessed it, North Africa. How most of the ostriches survived is their ability to run. Their legs themselves are actually really powerful weapons. They allow them to fend off predators when needed. Their wings allow them to make turns and behave sort of like rudders. Uh, Before we continue, to show their uh, the legs, their ability to fend predators, we're going to go ahead and give a demonstration real quick. And there it is. That's exactly that's what they do. That's oh god. Anyway, believe it or not, ostriches don't actually bury their heads in the ground. Instead, they sort of push their heads against the ground to become less visible, which gives the appearance that they're sticking their head in the ground. The reason behind the bird's decline consists of hunting for the bird as well as habitat loss. Uh, the bird actually already has some groups attempting to revive the species. Most of their tactics include breeding them because for some reason a lot of the birds are infertile. Okay, the predator. Shoot. Now every biome has a predator and a prey. And the desert is no exception. The one I will be talking about is the roadrunner and the rattlesnake. The roadrunner and the rattlesnake have sort of hard info. It's hard to find information on them. However, what I could understand from doing the research is the roadrunner is the predator. The roadrunner's tactic for killing the rattlesnake eating the rattlesnake is grabbing the back of the snake's head. Let me just actually make them fight real quick. They grab the back of the snake's head and bash the snake's head in until they, uh, commit breathant. The roadrunner will then eat the rattlesnake, and if the snake is too long, they will swallow this snake bit by bit. Now, through this little Minecraft demonstration, you can see that the roadrunner is usually successful, but not all the time. Now, if the rattlesnake population were to decrease, the roadrunner wouldn't have too difficult of a time finding other prey, as there's a lot of roadrunners. There's a lot of things the roadrunners will eat. Of course, they'll still affect the roadrunners, except for not not as insanely as someone would expect. Yeah, sometimes the rattlesnake wins. On the contrary, since one of the rattlesnake's biggest predators is the roadrunner, if the roadrunner hits a decline, the rattlesnakes will most likely rise higher, as they wouldn't have to worry about one of their biggest predators. As, believe it or not, the roadrunner is one of the rattlesnake's biggest predators. If I were to choose a way To study a population in the desert, I feel it'd be best to do random sampling. The reason I feel this way is because of how scarce animals can be in the desert. They can hide in little holes and trees with their head to the ground. I think with random sampling, you could spend more time finding them in a group instead of trying to do mark and recapture. And I feel like it would just be really difficult to recapture them because they could just hide. So random sampling just seems like the way to go. No, I think it's about time we go over to climate change. Climate change is affecting the desert greatly and is severely risking desert ecosystems. Desert biomes are seen as as the most vulnerable to climate change. Many desert animals are very vulnerable to climate change, and the plants as well. The animals are especially vulnerable as they are at their physiological limits, which is basically just they can't push their bodies any further to survive in their environment. The CO2 data can be shown with this NASA graph, which will be shown on screen. Look at that. Pretty wild. Speaking of climate change, there's a couple other issues humans are causing in the deserts. Not only destroying habitats by doing things like irrigation and for tourists, off-road driving, which is pretty insane, but also destroying plants and animal life. For examples, desert lions often spend long amounts of time searching for food, and when they find settlements with cattle, like these right here, they often go near said settlements. They often find themselves killed to human hands. Now we're going back to ostriches to talk about the extinct Arabian ostrich, and again we're going to be using an emu because I just I can't find ostriches. All right. But they went extinct in 1966 due to humans overhunting the species. Of course, due to how long ago this bird went extinct, from what I could find, no one at the time attempted to prevent them from going into extinction. Why do I say at the time? Glad you asked. I'm definitely not talking to myself right now. They actually tried to reintroduce the species in 2004, which failed, and if I'm not mistaken, are still trying to successfully reintroduce the species, which is pretty awesome. Speaking of introducing, this might be my worst transition yet. Invasive species. What is an invasive species, you might ask? Basically, it is a species that is not native to the region it is in. This typically majorly impacts said region poorly. But do the deserts have invasive species? Yes, of course they do. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking about them, would I? The desert invasive species I will be talking about is the buffelgrass. The buffelgrass is invasive to desert areas in the U.S. It was brought here for cattle and erosion control. It's a severe risk to nearby plant life, as during hot summer months, they become highly flammable. They are adapted to deal with the heat, as from where they came from, fires were common. This is bad, as if it catches fire, it could easily split onto nearby native plants, which could easily kill them. There's no easy solution to the problem. The only solution I could see is if people begin treating them as weeds and pulling them out of where they're found to prevent major environmental damage. On the opposite side, what native species are thriving? In specific, the Nile crocodile. The Nile crocodile has a population size ranging from 250,000 to 500,000. They survive by staying near bodies of water. Typically, they stay alone, however, sometimes they form small groups. The males are very territorial. They are a nocturnal species and spend their time during the day sunbathing or, if needed, cooling off in the water. They have very good reflexes but tire quickly. They can stay underwater for 30 minutes and, when inactive, can stay underwater for 2 hours. Their technique for catching fish is by enclosing them in a small space. Then, the order for their hierarchy is what order they go in for food. The only real thing, the only thing really threatening this species is human hunting, as their skin is desired for high quality leather. Going back to birds, there are a lot of birds. This really does show how many different bugs and small rodents there are for birds to feed on, seeing how there isn't really many plants for them to eat. Us humans are threatening birds that live in deserts due to what we as humans have been doing to their environment. The only way I could see us fixing this is by restoring their environments and removing invasive species. I can just start here, actually. That actually kind of sucks, though. I'm gonna kill this thing. Oh my god, it is fast. The Roadrunner and the Rattlesnake. Now, the Roadrunner and the Rattlesnake are sort of hard to find information on. Yeah, I need to restart. Okay, I'm gonna cut this part out. I'm gonna quickly move over here to a different part and make it look cooler. Okay. I can't do it anywhere. What? 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 Nah. I'm re-recording this part. It's that bug again. Okay, you know what? I'm just gonna ignore it. That's not. It's that bug again. I don't like it. Is that Ho-Oh? Ain't no way. Okay, I actually should probably get to work.